Hey, everybody. Welcome to another adventure in history. I just realized that my camera is way off center. Yep, there we go. That's better, isn't it? It's better. Even if it isn't better, don't tell me that it's not better. Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's been a little while since we've done some history, but it was winter break, and everybody knows that Green Herring is Spartacus. You can come in here. Come on. Come on. Come here, puppy. Come on. You can come through there. Come on. Come in the door. Come in the door. I kind of shut the door a little bit to the room, and the puppy is like outside the door trying to come into the room, but she's petrified because she won't just like move the door a little bit. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come and see me. Come on. Kaylee, come on. Come on. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Come and see me. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. She just won't do it. She just won't do it. I wasn't trying to punish the dog. Green Herring, thank you so much for that subscription. Thank you for being Spartacus. Welcome in. JMR, good to see you. Tuna, what's up? A partially closed door. I know, and she could fit through the area. She just won't do it. I don't know what it is, why she's scared of doors, but that's really weird. It's a very odd thing. Anyway, yeah, so we were on break for 2 weeks, and I streamed a lot of Gundam stuff, but I didn't really stream a lot of history stuff. I think we got like maybe one, maybe two streams in there in that 2 week period that was history stuff. But that's okay, because I kind of did need a break. I needed some time to not to basically not have to think about anything complex. I have not done a viewer request on Spartacus. We have talked about the slave revolt that had Spartacus in it, but we have not had a specific viewer request stream just on Spartacus. That might actually be a bit hard to make an entire stream out of. We would have to go like back in time and explain why and do a lot of setup work, and then we would have to talk about the actual revolt and then some of the fallout from it. So it would have to be sort of a more broad concept, and that would be okay. I wouldn't be a problem with that. History is still there. It didn't forget you. Well, I appreciate the fact that history didn't forget me. I'm here playing with a partially completed Gundam kit. I should put this away so that I don't fiddle with it the entire stream. Yeah, I should put that away too. I should move all of these things out of my range of reach, because I tend to fidget when I'm on stream. That'll be perfect though. Those are perfect. Yeah, I think so. Oh, the perfect grade kit, or I don't know. Anyway, hey Nix, good to see you. Lumpy, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. I haven't been watching a lot of Twitch lately. I got out of any sort of rhythm over break, and part of it was because like I wasn't sleeping on a schedule. I was just kind of going to bed when I felt like it and waking up when I felt like it. And at least for the beginning of the winter break, there was World Cup to watch. And Moose just decides that we're going to talk about the news at the top of the stream. So that's cool. Moose, do you want to talk about something specific? Also, welcome. Yes, Muffin came to stay with you. Isn't that right, Lumpy? Uh, I seem to recall you saying that you were doing some cleaning or preparation work because Muffin was going to come and stay or come by. Oh, Nixa, congratulations! Very cool. Um, Adding a little allottle, a little oddle. um, your whole schedule is messed up. Um, yeah, I can understand from a logical point of view. I've clearly never been pregnant and can't get pregnant, so I can't say that I understand from a experiential point of view. But I know that that has um, a lot of odd effects on the human body. The only thing that you've seen has been the Speaker of the House debacle, which is debacle is a good word. I'll agree with that. Um, Russia tried to call for a 36-hour uh, ceasefire for Christmas. Uh, for those of you that are not up to all of the weird, not weird, I shouldn't say weird, not up to all of the different interpretations of how Christmas works, the Eastern Orthodox Christian faiths still celebrate Christmas around the date of January the 6th, which is called the Epiphany. They frequently celebrate the birth of Jesus to coincide with what they believe to be the date in the calendar year where Mary found out that she was pregnant with Jesus, which is the Epiphany. Um, and that's actually chronologically and historically a more valid celebration of Christmas than the 25th of December, because that was one of the first, was January the 6th, the Epiphany, was one of the first noted historical celebrations of the birth of Jesus. Um, so people were celebrating the birth of Jesus on January 6th, which is, by the way, not the day that he was born. They were just like, hey, well, we're going to celebrate Mary getting pregnant. May as well just lump that in as kind of like a birthday party for Jesus. And that was recorded hundreds of years before the Catholic Church settled on December the 25th. So interesting thing there. Ukraine did not agree to the ceasefire terms. They basically said that it was Russia trying to catch its breath and that they would use the 36 hours not to actually cease fire, but to reload their missiles. And Ukraine sort of told Russia to shove it, which, of course, has not been interpreted well inside of Russia. What else is going on in the world? COVID is really bad in China right now. So bad that China has, as a government, stopped releasing data on it, which is pretty telling. Yeah, pretty rough stuff. What else is going on in the news? There was the first debate in Britain uh, between the Conservative Party and the Labour Party for the upcoming elections, and Rishi Sunak, the leader of the Conservative Party, gave a really interesting speech if you don't have feelings. And it has not sat well with the general public. Let's just say it that way. I mean, he said a lot of stuff that was factually accurate, but he almost delivered it like he was some sort of like news delivering robot that had no emotional attachment to the stuff that he was saying. I've read some pretty scathing reviews of his debate performance. Labor is like 20 points up right now for the potential next election, but there's a long way to go. A long way to go. You had an awesome idea for a viewer request stream the other day, but you forgot it. Vipers, welcome. That stinks. I hope that it comes back around to you. For 3 days and then 3 days at her place. Ah, I see, I see. I just figured if we're just going to talk about fighting and doggy doors, may as well. Hey, yeah, it works. It works. Vestra, good to see you. Maddie, yeah, Ukraine did tell them to go pound sand. Sounds like it was just like Russia was hoping to get a breather in. Yeah. What happens when one side does not agree to a ceasefire? Pretty much, they just don't do a ceasefire. Russia wasn't probably going to do a ceasefire anyway. They were probably just hoping that the Ukrainians would. What up, Jacob? I'm doing okay. Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. So we can debate when Jesus was born. Lots of potential options. Three Kings Day Eve. Yeah, Epiphany, Tiffany, indeed. Right, catching up. I'm catching up. Ed Norton is a Native American. Yeah, according to PBS and noted genealogical historians on PBS, he is 13 generations removed from Pocahontas, which is interesting. I would hesitate to say that makes him Native American. I don't know. That's an interesting. I don't think he identifies as Native American. I think it's always just been sort of like we've known this, or we have thought about this as our family, and we'd like to have it proven, and it got shown. So. Flights out of China have been 50% plus positive. There you go. Kevin McCarthy can't get a majority. No, not at all. They found a whole bunch of things under the ground. Well, not underground, but under vegetation with LiDAR. I posted or somebody, I can't remember if I did, because I know I was going to post it, and I can't remember if I posted an article about it or if somebody else had already done so, and then I just read their article. But in the Discord, there's an article about a new Mayan city, which looks pretty cool. I did not call the Tories heartless sociopaths. Those are your words. You have no food, no heat, no healthcare, but what about some maths? Yeah, he wants everybody in the school system in the UK to take math until they're 18, which again, I don't think is necessarily a bad message, but it's like there are more pressing things to talk about, Rishi. It's an interesting thing to do. What up, Cave? Good to see you, my friend. They all do have tribal affiliation requirements. That's true. Yeah, exactly. Read the room. Right. There was no reading of the room at all. At all. Simon Pegg posted a video telling Sunak to, really, I will look that up. If you're like me and you don't have to worry about money, you should worry about math first. Well, there is that. I saw one criticism. It's easy to complain, or it's easy to ignore the fact that it's so cold here when you can get on a plane. When you can get on your personal plane and fly to the Bahamas or fly to the Caribbean. It's pretty critical of Prime Minister Sunak. He did not come across very well. It's almost like Sunak is some rich guy with no connection to the people that he's ruling. Well, let's not use the word ruling. I would say governing. I guess technically Charles would be ruling, but that's another weird one. Anyway, so let's talk about the Americas, because that's sort of our broader topic tonight. I mean, I don't mind kind of like, you would say fleecing. That's another word. Charles in charge, indeed, of our days and our nights. Charles is in charge of our wrongs and our rights. So that wasn't a bad show, Charles in Charge. Interesting stuff, though. Anyway, I'm thinking about all the Charles in Charge episodes. My brain is very scattered today. I spent a lot of time at work today, just kind of grinding stuff out. And I got home, and my brain kind of went. It's been a lot better since I've been home, but like, it's still kind of tough. Brought you to a sushi place that was also a dense store for Japanese treats. Interesting. I'm not sure exactly if I'm getting that. dense store. Maybe that's like dense as in like packed full of stuff. Do you have the same heavy class load as last semester? I still have the same number of classes, but based on the last time I checked, I do not have the massive amounts of students. I think my largest class this semester is 30, whereas my largest class last semester was multiple classes with 45. So I think I have one class that's 30, and I think the other, well, no, I have two classes that are 30, and then I have four classes that are 25. I think. I haven't actually looked at that because I didn't have time to look at that today. I was making up for yesterday. We had meetings all day yesterday, so I didn't get any work done. Now you're thinking about Nicole Eggert. Yeah. Okay. Americas. What's going on with the Americas? Well, last time we actually had an adventure in history. We were talking specifically about Mesoamerica, and we talked about the Third Tikal-Calakmul War, which sort of is the last big epic in the classical Maya period. And we spent the entire stream just talking about all of these cities down here fighting over each other's territory and flipping people this way and switching sides and stabbing each other in the back and, you know, burning effigies of each other's gods and stuff like that. So we did not get to talk about the regions here in North America or our regions down here in South America. So we're going to catch up with that tonight. So when are you going to start fundraising for Shane Builds a Trebuchet? Someone posted a really great video of a trebuchet on the Discord, and them shooting a flaming something, I don't know, a fireball out of the trebuchet, and it was wicked cool. I have always wanted to build a trebuchet, not for post-apocalyptic siege warfare, just because, you know, I friggin' want a trebuchet. So I don't know when I would start fundraising for the Shane Builds a Trebuchet stream. If I did build one, it would probably be small, and it would be portable. I could move it around. I think we both know who would actually be building the trebuchet. I would build it if it was a trebuchet. I would build it. I would hurt myself many times. Many times. I'll be very clear about this. My wife is way better than I am at building stuff. Like I can build a Gundam kit because it has a big instruction guide to it. I could build a trebuchet because I know how they go together, but my wife is still way better at building stuff than I am. Full disclosure, not even trying to hide that at all. She's way better at visualizing stuff and planning stuff out like three-dimensionally. My brain doesn't always work that way. You start classes on the 10th. What kind of classes? Oh, you've already told me this. Pilot school, right? Are you going to start pilot school on the 10th? Or are you already doing pilot school? JMR, I apologize. I know that you've told me this and I can't remember. You should cover the Black Panther 2 Mesoamerican representation. I haven't seen Black Panther 2, so I wouldn't be able to speak to that. It only fell apart twice. You have built a trebuchet. Well, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Architecture contractor classes. Okay, cool. Well, I hope that they all go well for you, and I hope that you have a positive experience with all of that stuff. I would probably hurt myself. I'm pretty good at hurting myself. All right, so we're in the Americas. We've talked about you did aviation, but it's expensive. Gotcha. I knew that flying was in there somewhere. In related news, On confirmed that Llama is in fact pronounced Llama. Yeah, because two L's makes a Y sound. And that's what they call them in South America. We just call them llamas because we don't pronounce things correctly in Spanish. So this is an Ava reference, which is Swedish. I don't actually know how Swedish people would pronounce that, but close enough. I was doing, Llama Mia, here we go again. Brittany actually came up with that title. I was going to call it Blunt Force Llama. But then there was also Llama Said Knock You Out. That was a possibility. And Llama Told Me Not to Come was another one. Llama told me not to come. So, yeah, I don't know. That's pretty furry. All right. Llama jokes. Yeah. Plenty of them. Plenty of them. All right. Let's actually talk about the Americas because we're 21 minutes into the stream and haven't actually talked about anything on the docket tonight. So there's that. Okay. Anyway, we didn't talk about North America. We didn't talk about South America, so we need to cover these things. Broadly speaking, what's going on in North America? We have entered what's known as the late woodlands period. And this is going to run, depending on where we are, from about 600 or so to about 800 or so. And it depends on where you are in the country or in the continent, because this is broadly happening in the Eastern Hemisphere in the big river basins. Ohio River Basin that runs all the way up through this way. Mississippi River Basin that runs right down through here. What did they call their land at that time? Who? Because there are lots of different peoples that were in this area. But at the end of the Middle Woodlands period, we actually had quite a few big civilizations, specifically the Hopewell cultures. Dude, I don't know. We don't actually have a lot of the extant Native American languages from this region anymore. This is way, way before we ever had any contact with modern people from Europe that would have written down Native American languages. So we are there are still three cultures that are three big phases of culture that spread through eastern regions of the continent before the Europeans even show up. We are looking at 700 to 800, so we're in the 8th century. No llamas in North America, by the way. We'll get to those later on. So, at the end of the Middle Woodlands period, the big cultures here along the Ohio River and the northern Mississippi River Basin are going to sort of disperse. And there is a broad movement of populations out of centralized locations. Now, what does that even mean? Well, there had started to be some cities that had sort of been popping up around some of these river basins. And when we say cities here, we don't mean things like, 40,000 inhabitants. We're talking about a few thousand people that lived sedentary lives, full year round in one place. And we're going to sort of be moving backwards from that, because during the Middle Woodlands period, there's also a lot of trade, especially these big trade networks that stretched from basically the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, all the way over here into the Southwest and into what is modern day Mexico. Maize, corn came out of Central America via trade routes and got over into this area. But the Middle Woodlands period is sort of very busy. There's lots of connections. There's a lot of moving around, and population centers are sort of centralized and big. But we we see a sort of a backwards regression from that during the late woodlands period. Centers of habitation are going to be smaller, and a lot of the big trade hubs are going to disappear, and a lot of the big trade networks are also going to disappear. And there's a lot of debate as to exactly why this happens, right? Like, why do we go backwards on the sort of civilization scale? Well, there are lots of theories. Of course, this is way before we have written history in this area, so we don't know. We have to base all of this off of circumstantial and secondary evidence. So there is some climate kind of stuff that we can look at that would have made the weather a little bit less conducive during this period of time to big open fields. We also can kind of look a little bit at how much land they're clearing. This gets really, really speculative into plant archaeology, and there's a whole new sort of spin-off version of archaeology that specifically looks at plants and how plants were used in the ancient world and how we can learn from them and all of this stuff. And one of the things that is kind of, how do I say this politely? Because I mean, I like this stuff, but I want to be fair to it. A lot of their techniques are still emerging. They are really well put together theoretical models. And one of the things that a lot of these sort of plant-based archaeologists look at is things like how much land has been cleared by human activity, how much of it has been cut down. And they do a lot of like comparative like tree ring data, and they look at things like what types of plants live in these areas, the density of things. So there's a lot of stuff that they have sort of proposed as saying like maybe the climate wasn't that great, maybe they weren't capable of clearing as much land, but basically the sort of leading theory is actually that the people that were in these regions just got better at doing stuff. And you go, well, why would that, why would that move them away from cities where they're trading together? Well, if you can do something yourself, you don't need to trade for it, right? If you can grow enough food to support your village, you don't need to go to the town, right? You don't need to go to the city to get stuff. If you have a person in your village that is capable of doing skilled crafts, you don't have to go to the city and trade for them. You can just get Jimmy to make one for you, right? So there's, and that's sort of the idea that I like to get behind. And not to spoil anything, but in the next phase, or the next time that we come back around to the Americas, we're going to see the rise of a group of people that are going to be really, really powerful, right? And this is what's known as the Mississippian culture, and it is a super big dominant power for hundreds of years, in especially sort of this sort of central region of the continent right here. And it's going to have really big trade networks that go about 2/3 of the North American continent, almost, like all the way up here into Canada, all the way down into here. But anyway, that's I don't think that they forgot all of this stuff. I think that they just got better at it, and they didn't need to go together anymore as much. And then their populations sort of started growing, because we do see a decentralization, but we do also see more stuff. So it's not like the population was going down. The population was actually going up. People just weren't big on living in these big groups. Let me catch up with chat. So much trade, not a single guy named Joe. Indeed. You love that the word corn is Greek. In Latin, there's a lot of corn everywhere. Yeah, absolutely. Because corn just means food. Archaeology wouldn't use that civilization scale anymore. You didn't get a chance to ask you in Eris's stream the other day if your sister is attractive, single, or lacking standards. Good gracious, Vipers. Wow. Could illness cause movement out of cities too? It could have. I don't actually know if there are enough human remains from this time period that we've discovered to tell if there were big pandemic sort of situations. Now, that's absolutely something that happens in other cities throughout history, of course. And it could very well have happened during this period. It's kind of hard to tell, though, especially because, again, these particular groups don't have writing, right? If they had written a lot of this stuff down, we wouldn't have to speculate so much. And when we find Native American remains in America, there is a lot of political red tape that's been attached to that, and rightfully so. I think we should protect Native Americans' rights to repatriate their dead, and I don't think that anybody's remains should be dishonored at all. I'm completely behind people recovering the remains of their ancestors. I have no problem with that at all. What that does, though, to a certain extent, is limit the available DNA samples that we've been able to get out of those, because it's up to the tribes to make that decision. And if they don't want to give DNA samples from the dead, fine, that's perfectly okay, right? They don't have to. I'm not like saying, oh, they should do all this stuff. That's not what I'm saying at all. But in a pre-literate culture, for us to have a good sort of guess at something like a pandemic, we would need to be finding either mass graves where lots of people died at one time and they just sort of threw everybody together, or we would need to have a lot of remains that we've been able to do DNA research on and look for genetic markers that associate with certain either bacteriological or viral infections. And to my knowledge, we don't have either of those. I don't know everything, though. So I'll just sort of underline that with I don't know everything. Plus cities bring war. That's really interesting point there, JMR. There does look to be some fighting during the Woodlands period between territories, but it doesn't really seem like there are big open wars. For the most part, the fighting seems to sort of be scuffling over kind of who gets to control the trade, and when that's settled, they kind of calm back down. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence of big, widespread warfare. So they had big intercontinental trade routes. Intracontinental, yes. Inter meaning between one continent and another. Depends on where we'd have to go and especially what time. During the late Woodlands period, nobody in this region of North America was trading with anybody from South America. In fact, the trade pretty much dries up in a lot of these regions. Illnesses cause a lot of migrations. Yep. Not sure if that happened. Me either. Rome depopulated during the summer to avoid malaria. Also, you want to go to the mountains during the heat. And if you're a rich enough Roman, you don't want to be in the city when everybody stinks either. So yeah, the malaria part definitely has a plus, but people stink. I'm Spartacus. KP. Thank you, sir. Welcome back to the adventure. If you could go back in time, if you could travel back in time, would you go around teaching people to write things down, or is the speculation fun? The speculation is fun, but the speculation also causes a lot of consternation, a lot of arguing, and some things do need to be argued about, but leaving things open to speculation also means that the wackadoodles get to do speculation, and this is how we end up with ancient alien theory, right? Like if the Maya had just written down, we don't believe in aliens, that would have been amazing That would have been great. There was too much moche pottery. Lumpy, I'll jump ahead a little bit, but at this point in South America, the moche are no more. Their last big cities are going to depopulate right around the end of the 7th century, and by the 7th to 8th century, the moche are gone. And that was going to be something we were talking about later on, but I'll get ahead of myself because you brought them up. The Americas depopulated, yeah, lots of really bad plagues and stuff like that. Yeah. So what's actually going on? R.I.P. cartoonish ancient world sex ed. It's really fun pottery. They had a good run of things though. They were pretty cool for like 300 or 400 years. So that's a good run for a civilization. Let's remember that the country of America isn't 300 years old yet, right? Mounds are kind of shaped like pyramids. Coincidence? I think not. Aliens. Yeah, I know. Alas. Okay, so what is kind of happening here? Well, again, there's a technological advancement. There are advancements in agriculture that we can tell during this time period because we find different crops being domesticated. We also see changes in weaponry. We talked about this a little bit last time. We were talking about the late part of the middle woodlands instead of the late woodlands period. The transition from the middle to late woodlands is going to mark the advent of the bow and arrow as opposed to the atlatl. So we're going to be using more not compound bows, more recurve kind of bows with, you know what a bow looks like. We're going to use those instead of an atlatl. We're also going to see a shift in food. Like we're going to be seeing more agricultural products and less moving around for hunting and gathering stuff. So an atlatl is a tool that effectively helps you throw a spear. So it's got a leather strap that goes around your wrist, and it's got a stick that's probably about yay long that you hold sort of back against your arm like this. So you put the strap around your wrist and you hold it back kind of like this, and it runs down your forearm, and you put your spear into a little notch at the end of the stick. And when you throw like this, it adds compound lever action to your spear throw. So it makes your spear fly both more directionally and further, and with more punch. So you see that start fading out in favor of using bows and arrows. Yeah, there you go. There's somebody using an atlatl, right? So you got your thing being, you go, and it flings it. So that's kind of what's going on broadly. We do see some changes in population centers, though, especially down in the southern part of the Mississippi. We get a group called the Coles Creek culture. I actually drove across Coles Creek with my buddies last week. Was that last week? Yeah, it was last week. Last Monday, we drove across Coles Creek, and I was like, hey, this has got a whole culture named after it. And it's over here in this region. Coles Creek is down here in Mississippi and Louisiana, and it is the type site name for this larger culture that spread through the states of Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. So Coles Creek, what's up with them? Well, they are an agricultural community. They do live in small towns. So this is one of the cultures that doesn't completely move away from kind of centralized living. They are going to be mound builder sites, and which is, of course, sort of one of my, it's one of my big things. I really like mound building sites. I have some pictures of some of their mounds. It's kind of hard to get at a lot of them because a lot of them are on private property. But this guy right here is at a place called Concordia, Louisiana. This is the Cypress Grove Mound. It's right here by this dude's house, and it's kind of hard to get at. But there you go. There's one of theirs, and then we have this one here, which is part of a complex. And it's kind of hard to see this one because it has been... so many of the smaller mounds in Louisiana and Mississippi have been farmed over. But you can see right here how this has an elevation to it. This is at a place called DePrado. This is the DePrado Mound Complex. And there's another one that's right back here. You can kind of see it pop up right there. These would have been much larger in the ancient world. This guy right here is now about 4.5, 5 foot tall. This would have been at least twice as tall. This guy right here would have been probably about 3 times as tall. It would have probably been up about like this. I haven't been to either of these sites. I really need to take about 2 or 3 days and just go do nothing but let's look at Native American mounds. Why are Arkansas and Kansas pronounced differently? Do they have different roots, or is it just ignorant Anglophobe? Yeah, ignorant Anglophobe things. That's exactly what it is. It's just pure silliness in the way that we pronounce words. You would say Arkansas, but we don't say Arkansas. We say Arkansas because it's weird like that. Anyway, so we do see the Coles Creek culture. I should type them here. We do see them having quite a bit of standardization, despite the fact that they have a lot of sort of wide variation in space, but similar culture. So they're all over the place, scattered around, but they're using the same sort of physical things, and they build same sort of mound complexes. Specifically here, with certain arrangements between like mounds and plazas, you can tell where they maybe cleared some of the space out and made kind of a rectangular space between mounds for things like ceremonial practices, things like meeting up and doing, big trade days, playing sports, things like that, right? You can tell where their fields were. But they're pretty cool. We know quite a bit about them. We've done a lot of archaeological research on them. I actually know a professor from the University of Pennsylvania that's doing a lot of archaeology on Coles Creek and has invited me to digs. Well, I'll say it this way. I first came into contact with her in 2019, in the winter of 2019, and she's like, oh yeah, when we go back out to this particular site, you should come out. And I was very excited about this. And that would have been the summer of 2020. And I think we all know how the summer of 2020 went. So she did not bring a team on 2020 or 2021. She did bring a team down last year in 2022, but they didn't actually get access to the site that they had been working at. They had to sort of shift at the last minute to kind of get permission to dig at a couple of other sites, and they were really just doing test trenches. They weren't working specifically on mounds. They just kind of had a place where they knew that there was a village, and they did a lot of test digs for things like, were there homes here and stuff like that, and which would have still been really cool to go do. But they spent a lot more time because she comes down with a team of archaeologists from Penn, but also with students. And I think they spent a lot of time doing kind of sightseeing stuff with their students instead of being on the dig. But next year, I guess this year, this coming summer, maybe she'll be back down. And if so, I would love to go out on the dig with them. That would be really cool. Illinois. is a Frenchified version of a Native American tribe that is anglicized. Yeah, pretty much. To become Illinois. America never had a chance with pronunciation. Pretty much. You missed digging, but it wasn't for you. It's not for everybody. It's really boring. A lot of the time, right? And you don't always find stuff. Sometimes you just find rocks, and not like even cool shaped rocks, just like rocks. Tridge hand, yeah. You do lots of like little motions with like toothbrushes and trowels and stuff, and you also have like, mildew and crap, and you end up with like really bad fungal infections and stuff, and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. I would love to. I'd love to go get out on one, but I'm kind of a weirdo. Pickaxes and trowels. Well, yeah, here we go. Yeah. All right. So Coles Creek. Lots of cool stuff. Potentially early standardized religion. We do see some of their pots that are shaped like kind of standardized effigies. Maybe that's religion. Maybe it's just, hey, cool picture, or we're going to make a pot shaped like a person. We don't really know. But Cypress Grove, DePrado, we looked at those. A little bit further south, which is kind of the first time we'll talk about Florida. Right around this region, right here, there is a culture that pops up called Weeden Island. Weeden Island culture. And they pop up during the century. Weeden Island is pretty neat. They're in central Florida on the Gulf of Mexico side. They seem to be mostly mound building centralized sites, but it's pretty clear that they did do some semi-nomadic stuff, and they definitely had a lot of what am I trying to say here? They augmented their diet a lot with fishing. Let's zoom into Weeden Island. Weeden Island. It's right there. It's out in that area. Boom. Right there. And today, this whole region is a national preserve to take care of the remains of the Weeden Island culture. Pretty cool stuff. We can put the modern borders on and see what this is by. What is that? St. Petersburg? It's on the other side of the bay from Tampa. Clearwater is here. So Peneus Park or St. Petersburg. But yep, that's where it is. And you can go still see some of this, and there are still some pretty cool things there, like the remains of this mound, which I know it doesn't look like it's that big of a deal, but let's remember there aren't very many mounds in Florida. And the fact that we have this guy right here, which comes up and then down over here, you can see this guy right here. The fact that this is still around is pretty cool, because you do not see a lot of mounds down in the modern state of Florida. But Weeden Island is a mound building culture. Most of the mounds that existed at that place are now destroyed, either due to people looting them or the water levels changing and flooding some of this area. But pretty cool stuff. Really interesting group that would be really cool to go check out. I've never been that far down into... Well, yeah, I have. I've actually been past it once, but I've never been to the Tampa Bay region. I've been to Orlando once. I'm not really very familiar with that part of Florida, but this is definitely something that I'd love to go see. The only Florida mound you've been to is the one in the middle of Fort Walton. And we can actually discuss whether or not that actually there are ideas about that one. There aren't a lot though down in this region, but Weeden Island is there. Pretty cool stuff. You can go check it out today. one more. Because we are rapidly running out of time. And I put creek and I meant bayou because I'm still looking at Coles Creek. Trying to make up some time here. Plum Bayou. Now, this is a group of people that are in what is today northeastern Arkansas, so right around this region here. Little bit maybe into southern Missouri. If I put the things on here, you can see like southern Missouri has this kind of like plop down part, but Plum Bayou is over in here. It's definitely adjacent to the Mississippi River. They are another pretty interesting little culture here. They are agricultural. They had social classes. They're going to grow a pretty wide variety of crops. They actually still did some trade because of the location here being close to the Tennessee River and the Ohio River. So they're sort of between that sort of trade network zone where a lot of the big rivers ran together. So you still did see some trade going on here. This, of course, is going to kick off the Mississippian period in just about another 100 years around this region. It's going to be really, really big. But they have some pretty cool places too, like these guys. So these are at a site called the Toltec Mounds, which is a very bad name. The Toltecs were a Mesoamerican tribe. It had nothing to do with northeastern Arkansas or southeastern Missouri, but they call these the Toltec Mounds. So there you go. I've never actually been here either. But this is another place that I would really like to go to because these are pretty big mounds left. Especially this guy right here. This big guy right here is like 25, 30 foot tall. Your grandparents have leather. Cool. The boot heel, indeed. Indeed. So that's kind of what's going on over here in the Eastern world. Now, there are people clearly all over this place, right? But again, we're mostly looking at people that are living in cities. We're not trying to denigrate people that are fully nomadic or semi-nomadic, but it's a lot harder to know about those people because they're not staying in one place and they're not necessarily leaving behind a lot of remains that we can find. So we're kind of broadly speaking about people that are living in cities. But that's what's going on over here. Now, what about what's going on over here? The biggest group that's happening over in the Southwest are the Pueblo people. Pueblo! They are mostly going to be in the region that we call the Four Corners here in the United States. So right over here, you see Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, and they make this region where these four states sort of sit just properly perpendicular. So this is what we call the Four Corners. But the Pueblo people are going to be broadly in this zone right here. And we've talked about their predecessors before. We've talked about the Anasazi, the Mogollon people. We've talked about a lot of these folks for several iterations of the stream, so we don't necessarily have to dig back into that. But the Pueblo people are going to be identifiable at this point. There is whereas we have on the eastern side of the Mississippi River, we have the periods separated by woodlands. We have like early woodland, middle woodland, late woodland, and then to the Mississippian period. The periods over in the southwestern area are designated by the type of baskets that they are using. So at the end of the basket weaving 3 phase, we enter the Pueblo 1 phase, which is like, all of this stuff is just sort of arbitrarily decided on name-wise by archaeologists back in the 1900s, and we're sort of still stuck with these weird names like basket weaving 3 and whatever. But you kind of have to know this stuff if you're going to get into it. Tonight's Shane-inspired etymology search reveals that the word culture stems from agriculture, starting from Latin colore, meaning to the medieval culturare, to the Middle English culture, which means to cultivate the soil. And from thus arose cultivation of the mind's faculties or manners. There we go. There we go. They should have just picked the one state to live in. Taxes would have been easier. That's true, and you find the one that has the lowest property taxes and you live there, then you work in the one that has the lowest payroll taxes. Double dipping. Evo, what's up, my friend? Good to see you. How's it going? Aunt's husband worked on getting some old mounds declared a World Heritage Site. Oh, cool. Yeah, there are a lot of mounds in St. Louis. A lot, including ones like in the city limits of St. Louis. The biggest ones, of course, are Cahokia, but they're across the river in Illinois, past what's called East St. Louis. And Cahokia is the biggest Native American site in the continental United States. I mean, it's bigger than anything that's in Alaska or Hawaii either. I don't know. Like, you can't say it's the biggest Native American site in the North American continent because that includes things like Teotihuacan, things like, Chichen Itza, or, Tenochtitlan, or any of the big Mayan cities like Tikal or Calakmul or anything like that, or Copan. You can't really compare Cahokia to, Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan had, probably 100,000 people living there, which is just not comparable in scope. But did they do any of that basket making while submerged? No. No, they didn't do underwater basket weaving. And some of those mounds contain nuclear waste products. In New Mexico, yes, they do. I would venture to say that it is the biggest North American site in the world. That's an interesting concept. Native American site. Cahokia is big, and it's really, really cool. I've been there several times, and I'd love to go back. I want to take the people that I love. You meant St. Louis? I don't know if they put stuff in Native American mounds. I know they put stuff in salt domes. I don't know if they put that in Native American mounds. Anyway, let's talk about the Pueblo people, because we have a lot of stuff and not a lot of time to get there. So at this point in time, the Puebloan people are doing cool stuff, like this really cool bowl here, which got fish on it. The fish is a little bit odd looking. Don't criticize their art skills, but they are making cool pottery. They are living in what we would call, cities. Now, when we say Pueblo people, immediately everybody goes to, hey, are they living in places like Pueblos? Not really. Not yet. They will, but we're still in like Pueblo 1 level. A lot of the really cool places like Mesa Verde, that stuff doesn't come around until like Pueblo 3 period, or Chaco Canyon, which is another big site that I'd love to go see. It's in New Mexico. Their biggest ones don't come around until like Pueblo 3 period. So what are they living in? They're living in pit houses, which look like this. This particular location is at a place called Canyon Chalet, and this is the Antelope House. And so these are pit houses that are built sort of in hangovers of mountains. So here you see the native cliff. You can see that there are some walls that have been made, but the majority of the buildings here are dug out of the ground and then lined with bricks. These would have had thatched roofs to cover them. But this is what Pueblo 1 looks like. And you see a lot of these pit houses. We need a tangent emote. What would that look like? I always question when I'm given a fish that is odd looking. Well, you should, especially if it smells funny. If it smells funny, don't eat the fish. The Antelope House sounds like a classic Southern B&B. Either that or one of those really weird steakhouses that's out in the West where you go and it's like not a steakhouse that sells beef steak. It's like a place where you go eat buffalo, or you go eat antelope, or you go eat, I don't know, mule deer or something like that. A circle with like it's actually a circle with a line that bounces off of it. That would be a cool animated one. Like a bing. My rule is if it smells like Fruit Loops, don't eat it. If fish smells like Fruit Loops, I would encourage you to definitely not eat that fish. If Fruit Loops smells like Fruit Loops, okay, cool. It's still not my favorite, but I mean, more or less okay for consumption. So, what's up with the Pueblo people? Again, they're going to rely very heavily on irrigation, and these people get really, really good at doing stuff like um, storage of water and moving water around through irrigation. They invent a lot of technological things that are going to allow them to keep water out of the pretty harsh sun, right? So you invent sort of these underground water caches, or these water caches that you can put big lids on top of and then cover those with dirt so that you make like kind of like an underground cistern kind of thing. Um, you know, um, my rule, or just don't eat fish ever. I like fish. I like fish a lot. That's a thought you had the other day. Was the emergence of realistic art a function of the available medium, or was it just too many chonky horse jokes from the critics that finally gave them the motivation? Um, Art techniques come from periods of time where people have enough spare time to develop art techniques. So when you see people who are not as developed when it comes to artistic rendering and artistic style, frequently what that means is that they are not as agriculturally bountiful as other cultures that do. That's not to say that skilled craftspeople can't come out of semi-nomadic or fully nomadic peoples. That they can happen. Göbekli Tepe is an example of that. Göbekli Tepe has kind of wrecked a lot of our stuff. Boncuklu Tarla, one of the places that I went to when I was in Turkey last year, has wrecked a lot of that stuff. One of the things that got posted in the Discord the other day, where there was a big mural found where a man was shown holding his penis and he's surrounded by jaguars. That piece of art was made by people who probably were not living in cities. So, and for that way, you kind of have to give them like that particular piece of art was rather well done. Compared to something like maybe the fish that we just looked at. But typically speaking, you're going to find more data that lines up with the idea that artistic abilities are going to coincide with ease of life for artists, right? And this is true for just about any technology. It usually takes time for people to sit around and just waste around and do trial and error and screw stuff up to figure out what looks good. And the more time you have to do that, and the more leisure you have to do that without losing your food or your money, the better off your art's going to be, right? You don't like the smell or taste of fish. They are friends, not food. They're being overfished. I agree with that. I make a very healthy recipe, cod fillet over fennels. Sounds good. You can't even eat chicken without gagging. Ugh. Interesting stuff. All right. We again see pottery coming out of this area. We do see in the Pueblo world, we do see some organized religion. We have these things right here. These are called kiva. This is a big pit dwelling that would have been a communal space for here's where we're going to have to go off into the stereotypical archaeologist thing. It's highly suspected that these are religious in nature. We do have good evidence for that, though. This isn't just us finding something weird and going, what's that for? And then somebody going, it's ceremonial. There's really, really good evidence that this is ceremonial in nature. Even later tribes of Native Americans who are still going to call themselves Pueblo today recognize the kiva as an important part of the religion, where people sat around and smoked, or where they did, ritual stuff, or they maybe met together to make big decisions in the in the presence of a priest or a shaman or something like that. Theo says archaeology in a nutshell. Yeah, we found this thing. It must be ceremonial. Like, what if that dude just really liked making shapes that, or sticks that were carved in the shape of snake, and we just found like that one guy's house that was like Jimmy the Snake Carver, right? And we found him and we're like, oh, he's the snake priest. Right? I was on Tenterhooks, a communal religious place for worship. Murder? Hanging out and probably doing religious stuff. Perhaps smoking, perhaps some participation in potentially hallucinogenic stuff. We have found cochina dolls in Kiva, archaeologically speaking. So cochina dolls are usually about yay big, and they are typically associated with individual gods or spirits, especially designed to protect children or protect tribes. So finding those inside of Kiva, that's a pretty big head nod to those being religious centers. There are sort of three big regions of the Pueblo people during this time. There's the Dolores River, there's Chaco Canyon, but if you look up Chaco Canyon, you're going to see the really, really cool stuff that comes from about 350 or to 400 years after the Pueblo people that we're talking about right now. Most of the really, really big stuff in Chaco Canyon doesn't get started until around 1100 or 1200. We're talking about 700 to 800. So you've still got a ways to go to get to the, like, if you just put Chaco Canyon in Google, you're going to see really big architectural landscape kind of things that are city sized, really friggin' cool, that I'd love to go see with. Also, what's with archaeologists calling everything cults? It's just easier to say than local polytheistic religious belief sect. Is there a volcano around there? Don't think so. If there are volcanoes around there, they would have been really, really long dormant. Chaco Canyon. Like that. How do you spell it? Because your brain is hearing Calmine. Kiva is the ceremonial location. Cochina is the doll. You'd have to give me like what it is, because I lost the antecedent to it. Because I'm hearing cow, and see, I don't know if you're saying that in Irish. Oh, speaking of vipers, have you seen the movie Banshees of Inisherin? It's quite good. Brittany and I watched it earlier the week. Quite good. Perhaps one of the most Irish movies I've ever seen, though. Like, it's real Irish. Well, let me say it this way. Based on my understanding of what Ireland was at the time period that it was set in, it is what my brain thinks real Ireland was. I could be completely wrong on all of that. Yeah, so cult is just a small group of religious stuff. Yeah. All right, so there's a lot of cool stuff there. Okay, now, one thing I do want to talk about briefly, and we're really going to have to talk about this briefly because I'm kind of running out of time already. But this is good. We're having a good conversation. I want to talk about these things. Okay, so first off, we don't really know what these are. Like, if we're just being really honest, we don't know who made these or when they got made. But the consensus is that they could be made around this time. And they're called the Blythe Intaglios. And instead of showing the images of these, I figured we would just zoom in on them from space, because they're really cool and they're really big. And the photos of them don't do them justice. So, the Blythe Intaglios These are in southeastern California. And they are these enormous rock formations where the people went into this area and they basically scraped back the top layer of the dirt to get down to a chalk layer that is lighter than the surrounding soil, and then piled up rocks to make shapes. Yes, these are clearly aliens, right? This is clearly an alien, right? It has disproportional legs and body. You know, it's got not safe for work bits. That clearly an alien. But these things are really wicked cool. So this one is speculated to be a mountain lion. We really don't know what this is. It's just wicked weird. It's got this little spirally thing down here. There are others of these. One of them is... Nope, let me go back to north. Okay, so one's there, so the one's over here. Yeah, so here's another big man. So what you're seeing is inside of a ship. This is actually a modern big rail fence. So what you're seeing is a big, like 10-foot tall chain link fence. So it's not actually, they did not build the pentagram thing here that he's in. There are a few others. Well, yeah, I know that one was there, but there are more. I thought there was one down here somewhere. Ah, there it is. I knew it was Blythe Intaglio number 3. Yeah. So here's another one that's like, is this a cat or is this a cow? What is this thing? We don't know what this thing is. Here's another man. There he is. Anyway, these are really weird, right? These are just really weird. Must not make inappropriate comments, right? It's an alien landing pad. Eric Von Thonk. Yeah, pretty much. Son of Jor-El, Nebel Zod. Aliens in America. Animal and Spirit. Yeah, so Indiana Jones has got it. Indiana Jones. That's great, yeah. Animal spirits, probably. Protection spirits, probably. How long are these? So they run between... like the biggest ones are like 30, 35 yards long. So what's that, like 18 or 20 meters long? They're pretty big. They're not easily seen from the ground level. You really do have to get on some elevation. Like the good pictures of this guy come from this like cliff up here. People shooting pictures down. Like if you get on the ground level, ooh, I didn't actually look for this. Are there any pictures? Do we have ground level around here anywhere? No. That would be too easy, wouldn't it? Has anybody taken pictures of this guy ground level? Let's see. Ooh, there's some over here. I bet you're not going to be able to see very much of it, though. Well, yeah, this is just... this is somebody sneaking a drone in. That's exactly what that is. That is a drone photo. You're not really supposed to have drones here. But somebody did. Anyway. So, these are neat. Why do I mention them? Well, first off, they're really friggin' cool. Second off, they're probably built around this time. Do we know exactly when they're built? No, we don't. We have speculation. We have lots of hypothesized stuff, but we don't have a lot of for certain. Of course, it's a petroglyph, right? How do you date one of those? It's Imperial Walker, Buffalo from Venus, sure. Maybe early drones before rules were made, quite possibly so. What's up, Raveland? Good to see you. Yeah, so that's what's kind of going on in North America. We've got some pretty cool stuff going on. Let's shift down here to South America, and we'll try not to shortchange these people by moving quickly. What's going on down in South America? Well, we've got some pretty cool stuff. The San Agustin culture is a group of people that are right about here in the modern day country of Colombia. So let me throw up the borders just to remind everybody where we are. So this, if you would go north, please, thank you. This country right here is Colombia. And most of the Colombian cultures, we talked about one last time we talked about South America, if everybody remembers, because I'm sure everybody remembers all of this all the time. These river basins right around in here are going to be centers for habitation. We're going to get some cool stuff down here. No, these are older than Peru. The older civilizations are the ones that are in the Andean mountain ranges. So like Chile, Peru, Ecuador, those are going to be way older by like thousands of years. From the cities that we're talking about over here. The San Agustin culture is really only going to kind of pop out of semi-nomadism and move into cities during this time. I should say that they move from being in small villages that are semi-nomadic to being like full-out city dwellers during this time. That was a misconstruction of their world. That's my apologies for trying to glaze over stuff and be too fast. I can picture one Native American on the hill shouting, left, left, no left, and then on the ground making, what? I don't even speak English. Yeah. We won't shortchange these people by moving quickly. That said, let me blow through this as quickly as I feel like I can. Well, I mean, I was very clear about the fact that we're trying to make up time. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just trying to be clear. We do know that the San Agustin people did have quite a bit of social class, and we know this because of really cool graves. Some of the people get big old tumuli graves with dolmens like this guy. So if you get the big cool grave, clearly you got enough people during your lifetime to help you make that, because you didn't make that while you were dead, right? You had enough money or you had enough power to build yourself a big old tomb with some dolmens in it. Now, what's really interesting about the San Agustin culture, they have these big tombs. We really don't see a lot of grave goods, which is really interesting. Usually if you have a big old tomb, you're going to put a lot of stuff in it too, right? Because that's kind of the whole thing, right? Like you want to be buried with your cool stuff. There's stuff with the bodies, but there's not what we would consider like a proportionally equal amount of stuff in the graves. Like if you look at dolmen burials that we found in other places like Europe or Asia, the dolmen burials and stuff is not as equitable. How do we know that it wasn't stolen? Herring, that's a great question. If it was stolen, they would have needed to have been stolen very, very quickly after their burial, because you can tell over time when sediment layers get packed down and when stuff gets left alone for a long time, whether or not it's been disturbed. And it doesn't look like some of the burials that we have dug up had been disturbed, and they didn't have a lot of stuff in them. Now, grave robbing, 100% a big thing that happens in the ancient world. But even in burials that seem undisturbed by best guesses and best practices, it doesn't look like they were particularly lavish with the grave goods. Family lets you use it for 10 years and then takes it back. Maybe so. Maybe they just let you borrow it while your spirit is kind of in its journey, and then they go get it back. I guess that could be there. Again, they were a pre-literate culture, so we speculate a lot, right? Because we don't have it written down from them. We have to interpret this based on comparative archaeology, a lot of things like that. It's okay to say we don't completely understand. I'm a big believer in saying we don't know. We do know that they had an organized religion. They do seem to have particularly organized religious themes in their art, particular figures and individuals showing up in a standardized way, right? So you see this guy with this headdress, and every time you see this guy, he's wearing that headdress and he's shaped like this and he's looking like that. And you kind of get these like stained glass window things or icons things with Christianity, right? Like you go to a church and you see, like every time you see St. Peter, he's got keys with him, right? Because he's got the keys to the kingdom. Same sort of concept, just not in a Christian setting, right? The carbon dating. See, here's the thing about the carbon dating, though. That particular study that did carbon dating found remains inside of one of the piles of rocks, but they related the particular material that they found to a later Native American tribe. Well, no, so they found some burned remains and some wood that looked like it could have been used as a fire, and they did carbon dating on that particular stuff. But here's the thing. Later tribes have admitted to using the Blythe intaglios for ceremonial purposes. So these particular sets of petroglyphs have been around for like 100, or they could have been around for centuries prior to, I can't remember. It might have been the Quechua people that were admitting to using those. I can't remember. I've read the one that did the carbon dating on it. I read their paper, and that they can't prove that those were made in the 900s. They can prove that people were using them in the 900s. There's a lot of other circumstantial evidence, like if you look at the weathering pattern on some of the rocks, because again, these have been like literally sitting out for centuries, and compare them to rocks that were not weathered at the same location or not weathered above ground. You can do some comparative weathering things. You can also do some good gracious, geological mineral testing, and I'm very unfamiliar with exactly how they do that, but basically they could look at the mineral composition of the rocks themselves and see where they came from, and who would have had access to them. I'll admit, we don't know when the Blythe intaglios were made. 750 is the starting date, and they run all the way up through post-colonialism. One of the leading scholars, well, not leading scholars, but one scholar who's published about them says that one of the intaglios is a horse, and clearly that could not have happened until after Europeans showed up. So the range of dating for these things is really, really broad, but I don't think that the carbon dating that has been shown from them can be used to firmly date them from 900 to 1200. Yeah, I don't think that we can use those to 100% guarantee that's what they were, because I just don't think that we can. Like it's a really nice piece of circumstantial evidence, but I don't think it's conclusive. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Nixa. This could have been something where somebody made one, and then somebody else made another one, and then somebody else 200 years later made another one. Anyway, let me catch back up with chat. How do you carbon date rocks? You don't carbon date rocks.
You carbonate the stuff that the rocks are on top of. Yay, my part of the world. What up, Infernal? Good to see you. How's everybody doing? Doing okay. How are you? How's things? So we're talking about San Agustin culture. It is in Colombia, right around this region. So they're kind of coming up in the world. Now, the larger sort of more skilled / more highly levels of civilization people in the region were called the Zenu. Now, sometimes you can see this spelled Senu with an S, but Zenu people, also in Colombia, these are pretty cool people. These, again, were civilized people, and I say civilized, well, not, I shouldn't say civilized. They were agricultural people that were sedentary. That's what I was looking for. They were at a higher level than the San Agustin people. They had much more trade. They had a lot higher levels of technical skill when it comes to their artwork. I have this really cool earring that is dated to right around 700. Check out how friggin' cool that is. We know, based on the way that this looks and doing analysis of the item itself, that this was produced with a mold, and you basically make the mold three-dimensional and you fill it with wax, and then you kind of pour your molten gold into it, and it replaces the empty spot. It melts out a hollow space where all of that would have been. Pretty friggin' cool. You're tired and hungry, but fine. Tired and hungry. You can sleep, and you can get some food. So if those are the problems, those are at least manageable problems. Hopefully so. According to the Bureau of Land Management, between 450 and 2,000 years old. Yeah, so that's a big margin of error, right? Yeah, lost wax casting. Exactly. Does it have the backside so we know where to place the staff? You got to take away 1 cubit from the staff, right? And you only know that if you have both sides of the... I got you. What type of animals were those meant to be? That's a great question. I don't know. Maybe lizards? I couldn't tell you, though. Maybe they're... Yeah, I don't know. It's just really cool because, again, that's an earring. So I had it zoomed in really, really big, but that whole item is about yay big. So that level of crazy detail is meant to be an earring. And I just had it zoomed in really far so that you could see it. Really cool stuff. What up, Moose? We did that with aluminum in high school. Yeah, that's really cool that you had a metal shop class that would let you do that. About to have the first meal, Chinese food. I do love me some Chinese food. All right, now, what's going on a little bit further down here in the Andean region? Well, we're kind of holding course. If you remember where we were last time, we were talking about 2 different cultures in the Andean region, the Wari and the Tiwanaku. So Wari is here in the peach color, Tiwanaku is here in the blue. They are both really big cultural centers, and we need to talk a little bit about how they're named. So let me put both of these up. Wari is in the north. Tiwanaku is in the south. Now, both of these are referred to as empires. The Wari Empire, the Tiwanaku Empire. But were they empires? It's an interesting question. First off, they were both very big. They had very designated cultural centers. They had a lot of sway over their surrounding areas. They were able to export culture to their surrounding areas. But did they militarily dominate and politically dominate the surrounding areas? This is much harder to tell. Now, these people are living in cities that are significantly larger. So, of all of the peoples that we have talked about tonight, the Wari and the Tiwanaku are by far the highest level of organized civilization that we've talked about. They're living in cities. So, like Tiwanaku, this sort of hits its height during this period of time. And in the city of Tiwanaku, there are probably 20 to 25,000 people living at this city. And I know that today that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but that's a big deal. That's a lot of people in the ancient world living in one location, especially if you look at the region that they're living in, which is not necessarily, the world's most hospitable. So it's right around here at the Lake Titicaca. It's sort of the center of the heartland of the Tiwanaku Empire, if you want to call it an empire. But we don't see a lot of things that we would expect if they were imperial in nature. For example, we don't see a lot of city walls. We do see some walls. For example, this big wall. This is actually at the city of Tiwanaku. So it's a city, but it's also the name of the larger culture that it's associated with. So for scale, this is a person down there. This is a pretty big wall, like 3 meters tall, probably, no, it's probably more than that. It's like almost 4 meters tall, 12, 13 feet tall, big wall. But this is around a temple complex. So it's probably not designed to keep out invaders. It's not around the city. It's around a temple complex, probably to designate a holy region or a zone of worship, right? So can you have a big empire if you don't have city walls? Sure you can. But we also don't see a prevalence of things like warrior motif, right? When you see the art, you don't always see a whole bunch of people beating the crap out of each other, right? Now that does show up. What up, Fogage? Good to see you. So you do see people in battle gear doing stuff, but do you see signs of these big warfares? Sometimes, but it's not really super common. Also, do we have evidence of a proliferation of weaponry, right? Do we see things like stockpiles of weapons, or do we find armor that's common? Again, sometimes, but not really. So it doesn't look like these were really militarized cultures. So can you have an empire without a military? Now we're starting to get into a little bit of like, I don't know. If you don't have a military, how do you enforce centralized government? That's a great question. People don't tend to like following rules. So how do you make them follow rules if you don't have a military to back that up? That's another great question. So there is a lot of debate about whether Wari and Tiwanaku get to call themselves imperial. Now, Tiwanaku is doing stuff that does look pretty imperial. Specifically during this time period, again, they have hit a really, really high population level. And they had started sending out colonial efforts. So they're founding cities. Let me turn the modern country labels back on. So they're right over here on the borders of Lake Titicaca, again in South Peru and northwestern Bolivia. But they're sending out colonies. There's a colony over here. There's a colony down here in Chile. So they're kind of colonizing this whole region. And that's really kind of an imperial thing. Their population is big enough that they're packing people up and they're sending them out to make more food and to get more access to cool stuff and to, go forth and multiply and have more people to be part of the larger culture. There's a lot of speculation as to how you do that if you don't have some sort of big centralized, government saying, we're going to round up people and make a new city. Who wants to join the new city? Because that's not something that people just decide to do for fun usually, right? You kind of need somebody to spearhead that and fund that stuff. Do they have an imperial march? They don't, to our knowledge, have John Williams scored theme song for their emperor, which, We do know that they played music. They do have musical instruments. And there's some speculation that some of the stuff that we have down there is actually um, indications that they had a pretty high advanced knowledge. Like, okay, there's this whole this all gets kind of into speculative world again. But like, there's an argument that if you remade some of the instruments, that they would have all been roughly tuned to the same key, indicating that they had some like big level of musical knowledge. But like, that's like, I don't think we can say that. Like, I don't think we can accurately rebuild, you know, a flute from somewhere down in that region and get it to play the same tune that it would have in the ancient world. I don't think that we should do that. I don't think that we can do that. What about an Imperial April? I don't know of any Emperor April, so probably not. But the Wateri and the Tiwanaku are both big cultural powers. We can definitely call them cultural powers. And they definitely know that each other are there. There is a mutual understanding that you're big and you're powerful, and we're big and we're powerful. But they don't really seem to fight that much. We don't see cities along their borders changing hands. We don't see destruction layers in their cities that would have indicated that, you know, they were destroyed by an invading force. We don't see a whole bunch of evidence of violence. What up, Tad? Good to see you, man. What we do see is a whole bunch of mutual respect and a whole bunch of trade. A whole bunch of trade. They even seem to have cities, especially down in this region right around here, where they had designated trade zones where they, like, the Wateri people would come down and the Tiwanaku people would come up and they would trade with each other kind of at these designated cities. So did they have a treaty with each other? Maybe. It's a kind of a weird situation where they were up doing their thing and we were down doing our thing, and we're just kind of cool with that. So interesting stuff all around. Other places I would love to go. I just want to travel, right? Like, if I ever had unlimited funds, I would travel a lot. I'd have a home to come back to and rest for about a month and a half or 2 months, and then I'd be out again doing something else. What up, Fall Machine? You just tried providing technical support regarding a printer over the phone for an hour. Oh my god. Printers are the worst things ever. Like, why do you make printers that difficult? Printers are the worst. And if they're network printers, it's even worse. Bless you for even attempting to do that. Oh, I forgot to show you this. This is a big temple complex. This is the... I'm sorry, it's at Tiwanaku. So this big wall is what I was showing you earlier. This is the big temple. This big courtyard and sort of this big raised platform with the doors. They're really big on these doors. And this is a doorway. And this is sort of like a portal. It doesn't actually go to anything. It's just a doorway. And then you see the deity statue here behind it. Of course, this is the Stargate for the New World. If we're going to roll with the ancient aliens theory, this is the Stargate that takes you to where the aliens come from. There you go. But this is a big temple that's at Tiwanaku. That would have been in use around this time period from 700 to 800. All right. So, cool stuff. Really interesting. Places that I would love to go and things that I would love to see. But that is going to wrap us up on my end for the night. But as always, if there are things that you all want to ask about or points that you want to redeem or things that you want to do, now would be an okay time to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to go look around to see who is raiding, to see who we could go and raid. I think I have a target in mind. And we didn't go super far over. which is kind of what I was worried about. We got a lot of chatty at the beginning, and that's okay. I don't mind chatting at all, at all. I've lost a follower since we started the stream. We were 3 followers away from 900, and now we're 4. So whomever I offended, if you're still here, I don't know what I said to offend you. I'm not following that guy. That guy's a jerk face. I think that Twitch actually will unfollow somebody for you if you haven't been to a certain number of their streams in a row. I think Twitch will actually unfollow them for you. So like when I started and somebody didn't show up, I bet Twitch kind of unfollowed them for me. They work at Canon. Oh, dude, Canon printers are bad. JMR Killer's offended. I don't know what I did to you, JMR. I don't know. I wish you the best, my friend. Maybe I said I didn't like Exia as much as you do. And Exia is an okay Gundam, but it's not one of my favorites. Like, that guy's... I'm just not going to know. Twitch did go down for 45 minutes recently, and some people mentioned the unfollow bug. Oh, or maybe they're bots. Yeah, they could just... Well, I don't think that I've ever been bot rated. I don't not like the 00 Gundams. I just think that they're very plain. And there's nothing wrong with that. You were so smoking lemon garlic parmesan chicken wings. That sounds amazing, and I'm jealous. What's up, Bugatti? Good to see you. We're actually wrapping up at the moment. Jim Kadechi, what's up? How's it going? Hashtag jerkface. You like Dynamis more than Exia? I do too. Of all of the 00 Gundams, Dynamis is probably my favorite. I like the color scheme of Curios. I wish they would have done the Curios color scheme on Dynamis. That would have been the best of the both worlds. All right. Standard question book. Bum. We found out last time that it has science questions in the way back. So I'm not going to go to the way back. We'll go to the middle to get to the history stuff, which is most of the book. How about... Well, let's go something on this side. How about you? What are you? Modern Greece. Wow, that's fun. Oh, no. Don't. No. Oh, man. Old book is old. And we just had a... I don't know if you all can see this or not. But let me see if I can... No, the page is still there, but we had a fairly bad spine break. And that page is now kind of just hanging on. But I mean, it's 106 years old, so it's had a good life. I'll just take care of it. We'll be nice. Yeah. Okay. Name the present ruler of the Netherlands. Well, that's a question that didn't age well. I don't know who the ruler of the Netherlands was in 1911 when this thing was, or when was this printed? Was it I think it's 1907 was actually when it was printed. Or was it 1917? I can't. Let me look at the page. It's not broken. It's just that particular fold or that collection of pages is just a little bit loose now. 1917, so it's 106 now. Oh, that's horrible. Okay, so I don't actually know the name of the present ruler of the Netherlands. I don't know who's their PM. So let us go to the internet and let's find current Prime Minister. Okay, so the current prime minister is Mark Rutte. Okay, interesting. He's been prime minister since 2010. Wow, I should know him then because he's been in power for quite some time. That's a long time. He's been in power for 12 years. That's crazy. Mark Rutte. Looks like a. I don't know anything about this guy, but he doesn't look horrible just by the face. They don't really actually have a whole bunch about him. So maybe that's good. And there's no section here that says like scandals or or giant problems with this guy. So Dutch governments are coalitions. Oh, okay. So this is just about the prime minister specifically. Let's look at his page. So he's on his 4th term now as PM. That by itself is either evidence that his party is a superpower or that he's not horrible at his job. Well, I don't know. I mean, Putin's been in power since before that, and he's pretty horrible. Oh, well, that's interesting. His second cabinet completed its full 4-year term without collapsing or losing a vote of no confidence. That's something, right? Okay. Okay, maybe not so great. His cabinet collectively resigned after publication of the research around childcare subsidy scandals in the Netherlands. Okay, and then he offered his resignation as well. What is this childcare subsidy scandal in the Netherlands? Man, I've missed this whole thing. Political scandal in the Netherlands concerning false allegations of fraud made by the Tax and Customs Administration while attempting to regulate the distribution of child care benefits. Between 2005 and 2019, authorities wrongly accused an estimated 26,000 parents of making fraudulent benefit claims, requiring them to pay back the allowances that they received in their entirety. Holy crud! That's crazy. Tens of thousands of euros driving families into Supreme... Oh, wow, this is really, really bad. Discriminatory. That's not a good word to throw around. Institutional bias is not a good one either. I wonder if this was targeting people that weren't born in the Netherlands. Well, I'm going to look further into that. Thank you, Standard Question Book, for pointing me in the angle of new stuff. That's cool. That's pretty cool. Rolling back up. Man, I missed a lot of stuff. You like Dynamis more than Nexia. You're really offended. You have the Dynamis Master Grade. Yep. Twitch went down. Yep. Hooray book. Hot take. Hot and bad take. Dynamis is best green. Whatever. Found out there's going to be another Marcus Aurelius movie. Interesting. Is that Gladiator 2? I think somebody posted something about that with Ridley Scott directing. Whatever. Spineless History. Yeah, that's me pretty much. Sniper Super. Yeah, yep. Played by Russell Crowe. That's interesting. I don't see him as Marcus Aurelius at all, but that's, whatever. For every book spine that's broken on stream, one viewer's spine breaks. Oh, that's horrible. I do believe. Should we just like clap our hands if we clap our hands enough? Please, I did read your comment. I'm just lost in chat. You were just texting a Dutch lady. Voting for people who look like you, Shane McInnes. Does that guy look like me? Maybe, I don't know. Mark bikes to work sometimes. He cleans up his own spills too. Well, even if he's a horrible politician, the fact that he cleans up after himself is at least a mark in the column of humanity for him. Queen Wilhelmina Helena Pauline Maria would have been the ruler in 1917. Well, there we go. The Dutch nobility is still around, but it's pretty much like No scandal Putin, they call him. Yeah, well, it's not a scandal when you kill everybody that says it's a scandal. Yeah, KP already beat me to that one. That's the norm in the U.S. I'm not sure what that means, like making it through a term without a scandal. This is it, people. We are witnessing Shane memorize history firsthand. I mean, I don't know everything. I've tried to be very, very clear about me not knowing everything, but I am going to read the benefit scandal material, and I'll know more about it next time. Lost in Chat is the sequel to Lost in Space, pretty much. Danger Shane McKenna's Danger. I'm not. Oh, because we're doing the Lost in. That guy looks like me, but he's white-ish. Yeah. Is there a non-American political in history that you respect, maybe even admire? Non-American? Oh yeah, there are plenty of people. I admire Augustus and Constantine, and Marcus Aurelius was okay-ish. He's in the Five Good Emperors, but he was kind of a warmonger. He thought a lot about it, though. Of course, he also screwed over Lucius Verus and pretty much sent him to do all the dirty work while he had the time to sit around and philosophize. So it's really easy to be emperor when the guy that you kind of pushed up into the position is doing all the dirty work. I don't know. Ruler. Zhuge Liang wasn't a ruler. He was a military tactician. He was really cool. I kind of have a begrudging respect for Nobunaga. I mean, Oda Nobunaga was a horrible person, but like he did things that had not been capable of being done in Japan for like 300 years. Maybe begrudging respect. Admiration might be a bit far. Tokugawa Ieyasu, also pretty brutal, but I mean, very effective. Are we talking about like modern world leader? There's a guy in Tony Blair's parliament named Anthony Giddens, politician. The Labour Party was sort of the architect of New Labour. Really, really well-respected sociologist. I like him a lot. He's not technically a ruler. I'm sort of like loopholing all of this stuff out. Now, there's a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people. Not Berlusconi. No. There have been exactly 0 scandals involving the U.S. Prime Minister. This is true. This is true. Bonaparte was, again, kind of like a begrudging respect. Militarily and tactically, one of the best. But dude was a tyrant. Like, he really, really was. Rigged elections, bought newspapers that were talking negatively about him, disappeared people, had secret police. I mean, he was a tyrant. Militarily brilliant, but a tyrant. Nelson Mandela. You don't like Giddens? Dude, structuration theory is the stuff, man. That's my paradigm. Like I really do like Giddens. I really do. You don't like him because he doesn't agree with Marxism at all. Well, you got to remember that as a member of the government, he didn't get to do what he wanted to do. He got to do what Tony Blair could push through the government. And that's different. Giddens suggested a lot of stuff, and then Blair was like, I don't think that'll sell, Tony. And then sort of did his own thing that looked like Giddens stuff. So, The Third Way, yeah. That's a good one. I like his stuff a lot. I need to actually buy his books. I don't own any of his books, physical copies of his books. I would like to read his books. And he's written like 30 of them, so I don't need all of them, but like, you know, the big ones, right? Augusto Pinochet. Oh, that's an interesting take. That's an interesting take. Um, are we are we being sarcastic here? Because I mean, Pinochet, he's not a good dude. um, when when Salvador Allende thought it would be better for himself to commit suicide than to get captured and put on trial by Pinochet, that itself is telling. He saved his country. Ooh, um, if what you meant was he brought a standardized power to a country that had previously been disruptive governmentally, I will begrudgingly agree. But Pinochet was a brutal dictator that killed people because they annoyed him, used the military to suppress people's freedoms, was not a fan of any sort of criticism, was not afraid of torture at all. And he, like, in the way that the best dictators can bring, like, stability, he brought stability, but like tyrannical stability. Um, there was economic collapse under him. The poverty levels under him were incredibly high. The Chilean dollar, or their Chilean monetary system, was effectively worthless. Me? Do I have sources? Oh yeah, I've got plenty of sources. Like, for most of the 90s, their economy was doing fine, but like, if you look at what happened before that to get to that, it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. By the end of the time that he was in power, Chile had become more stable, but it was not because like not because he was a good dude. Um, I mean, like, it's fair to remind everybody that he did get arrested for human rights violations. You know, so um, and embezzlement, like his regime stole a whole ton of money. Um, I don't know. Like all of this stuff is not hard to find. Um, he built a good working economy, sure, but like the way you build that is important to express and understand. Like it wasn't through like building good policy. It was killing everybody that didn't agree with him and taking over stuff and pushing people out of not only the country but out of power. And the votes during that time weren't really legitimate votes. um, I don't know if I can agree that he was a good dude. um, Thomas Hobbes. um, Hobbes was not a nice person. I don't think Hobbes and I would have gotten along. Uh, it's fair to note that Hobbes's biggest book is about how people are stupid, and that because people are stupid, we need one person to tell us what to do, because otherwise, all we do is run around and eat ourselves. I like Cincinnatus because he went back to farming after winning the war in 16 days. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people that got the position of dictator in Rome and then gave it up. and like actually gave it up, not like Caesar gave it up to make a position of giving it up, but like Scipio Africanus, dude was in a position of like dictatorship, could have done whatever he wanted to, and then gave it up. Right, Cincinnatus gave it up. Hobbes is fine. He's just a stuffed animal. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. All right. And again, like I'm not mad at anybody. I don't like it's perfectly fine for everybody to have their own opinion. Like you can believe whatever you want to. I'm not trying to tell anybody not to believe what they want to believe. I just don't agree. Right? That's pretty. Have to disagree. That's fine. You're perfectly cool. You're not bugging me. You can't base off your life's upbringing as the best quality, and everyone should have the same upbringing as people around the world. I don't know if I completely understand your statement there, Bugatti. You're welcome to clarify. Again, I'm not mad at anybody. Like we're just conversating. It's fine with me. So, what you're arguing is that people need strong hands to tell them what to do, because if you leave people alone, they'll make bad choices. People in harsh environments shouldn't be given the same freedoms. Oh yeah, see now I will have to like flat disagree with that. If you believe in freedom as it is, you kind of have to believe that freedom exists or that it doesn't, right? So freedom is either a natural property of humanity, or it's something that is a social construct. And if freedom is a social construct, that gets into really, really murky waters. And to be fair, we can talk about injustice in any political system, right? But like, it's pretty clear that like the stuff that Pinochet was doing was like, okay, so but like again, we can't necessarily compare what happened in America with what happened in Chile. Well, I could totally tell you all of the horrible things that have ever happened in America, right? We had chattel slavery for 250 years. We've done horrible things, but that doesn't excuse the fact that Pinochet was doing horrible things too, right? It's not like other people were doing it, so it's okay across the board. It's just like you shouldn't indiscriminately kill people. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what's going on. Let's not be. Yeah, the ad hominem stuff is getting a bit much. You have to let things change naturally, not forced. Well, see, that statement right there actually goes against what Pinochet was doing. Because Pinochet wasn't letting things change naturally; he was forcing things to happen. So that caused some cognitive dissonance there with your overarching discussion. Allende's government was unstable because it was destabilized by the U.S. The U.S. didn't want him to get elected in the first place, and the CIA spent a lot of money trying to get him to lose the election that he won. Going so far as to like dropping leaflets and stuff. Allende was the mind that Chile needed to accept help wherever they could get it, and if that included help from, Soviet bloc or Eastern Bloc countries, if they were willing to treat Chile as an equal partner and trade with them fairly, they should do that. Allende wasn't like an avowed communist, but he was also trying to help rebuild the economy of his country that had been effectively devastated by things like the end of colonialization and the really, really bad economic collapse that happened in South America. As sort of a expanded result of ripple effects from things like the Great Depression. and poor leadership. The same sort of decolonization things that happened in Africa also happened in South America, where the European powers did not necessarily leave South America particularly well equipped to govern. They sort of just pulled out and left them to pick the pieces up. Some places did better than others, but it didn't work across the board. American Revolution was a forced event. It wasn't natural. That's true. Absolutely. Marx is your dream daddy. You learned. Ooh, okay, something has happened. And I'm not caught up with time yet. I didn't actually see what happened, but I'm going to trust that what happened was what needed to happen. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop, doo. Personal insults. Okay, well, it happens. We'll see. Anyway, gave blanket warnings on the ad hominems. There we go. Sounds fine. I gave you the sword to use the sword. It's not hurting my feelings. Were I not to trust your judgment, I would not have given you the power to do so. But I do think that it should be stated that Shane is super anti-killing innocent people, anti-tyrannical dictator, pro-democratic voice that's equally treated across the spectrum, pro-civil liberty and individual agency, anti-tyrannical government making decisions for people, anti-military force being used to threaten people's lives. That's where Shane is. Just as a statement of clarification, want to make that very, very clear. Personal level, don't think Pinochet was a good dude. Don't particularly even want to put him on the begrudging respect. Napoleon, horrible dude. Overall, did a lot of nasty stuff. Was not as bad as Pinochet. There are a few people that I could say that are worse than Pinochet, but the list is like really, really bad people, right? Like your Hitlers and your Stalins and your Maos and your Pol Pots. Pinochet is probably not in the top 20 list of worst people in the post-World War II era, but he's not a good dude. Qin Shi Huang. Yeah, so, I was trying to specifically think of like post-colonial modern world leaders that are really, really bad. Like, he's not a Slobodan Milosevic. Like, he wasn't actively trying to commit genocide, right? But last U.S. president that I'm confident didn't commit any human rights abuses. Ooh. Confident did not commit human rights abuses. I don't know if I can name one. Even George Washington, fought in the Revolutionary War. So we could have a Milosevic debate. I don't think Slobodan Milosevic was a good dude. I don't think that guy was a really good guy. When I know he got acquitted, right? I know that he didn't get convicted of the genocide, but if he didn't do it, he knew it was happening and didn't stop it. Milosevic was not a good dude. Not a good dude. Um, let's include your list of guys that were not good dudes in all of your. Yeah. My position is he's no worse than the other nationalist leaders at his time and place. Okay, well, I mean, I'll even give you that, but let's look at his time and place. His place was post-Soviet Yugoslavia. And none of those dudes were good. That was a really rough place to be. Really, really rough place to be. But again, like, comparing him to other bad people around him doesn't not make him a bad person. Oh, I don't like Dutchman either. No, Shane knows all the bad people, right? Like, not just the ones that the West kind of trounced up as the big bad guys. But like, there are not many post-Soviet Yugoslavia post-Soviet Yugoslavia. I can't say words, right? I just can't say words. Tudjman is the first. Was he the first prime minister? No, I think he was the first president of Croatia. First president of Croatia after Yugoslavia split up, and he's got lots of problems too. The stuff that went down with Bosnia and Herzegovina is not cool, right? Well, I mean, there are objectively bad things, right? Like stealing, murder, genocide. And if you do these things, right, you can end up getting the label bad. Like if you actively try to, I don't know, we're getting kind of into the weeds, and maybe we need Eris here to straighten us out, or Nogre, maybe Nogre can. Yeah, get on with it. But don't both sides of an issue commit bad. So the problem that we have with saying, oh, there are bad people on both sides, is some people will use that as an excuse to excuse the bad things, right? If we're saying, well, nobody's perfect, we all commit bad, we all do bad things. That's used very, very frequently as a way of saying we all do bad things, comma, so it's okay, right? So if you do genocide, you're probably not a good person. How do you make contiguous countries out of that patchwork? See, Nintendo, I completely agree that whole mess, and it's still an issue. Let's not forget that last week, Serbia was pretty much moving troops to the border of Kosovo, right? So that situation is still not solved or fixed, right? It's a giant mess. I don't think that it had to have violence, but I don't know if there was a way that everybody could agree with that would not have done that. And it would have required all of the parties to have entered a discussion with good faith and not try to go in to try to kill each other. Anyway, it was a big old mess. And even I worry, like, it was hard to get out of that without violence. I agree, and I don't know if we tried as hard as we could have to get out of it without violence. And I don't like the idea of killing things, killing people. Why did I say killing things? That's horrible. Killing people. I don't like the idea of killing people. Get on with it. Okay, rank 3 things. Ice cream flavors. I really like vanilla ice cream. I know that seems really, really weird. but I really like vanilla ice cream, like a really good vanilla bean homemade ice cream. That's really good. Butterfinger probably number two. Um, for a little while, Ben and Jerry's had a special flavor that was Stephen Colbert's Americone Dream. Uh, and I really liked that. It was vanilla ice cream, but it had caramel swirl in it, and it had these little pieces of chocolate covered waffle cone that were delicious. And they don't make it anymore. And I'm very sad that they don't, but I'll put that as my number three. um, Whole Balkan Peninsula is not fixed. No, it's not fixed. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's still messed up over there. Yeah, good vanilla. I like. Yeah, tunas. I loved American Dream. Yeah. Honey banana. See, I wouldn't have thought that would be good as ice cream, but I'd be down with it. I'd be down with it. I like trying stuff. Cotton candy ice cream. I've had that. It tends to be a bit too sweet for me, and it's usually very, very blue, which is not also my favorite thing. So, I don't know. You bought many weird Japanese Kit Kat flavors. Oh, see, now I am jealous about the Japanese Kit Kat stuff. Jimmy Fallon's late night snack with chocolate covered potato chips. I never tried that one, Tuna. I never tried that one. Anyway, we really do need to raid because we're like really big on here. And Tanker just dropped like the worst possible question ever. Now we're all going to be arguing over it. My answer is, if you give me pizza with stuff that I don't like on it, I will pick it off. Because pizza is pizza, and I'll eat it. That's my thought. If you give me pizza with something that I don't like as a topping, I will pick that junk off. Because that's what I do. I would rather have pizza than not pizza, right? You hate pizza, alas. Alas. No fruits, no fish. Now, I have had fish on pizza that I really enjoyed from Italy. I had some anchovy pizza in Italy that was friggin' delicious. Really friggin' good. Tuna pizza in Italy. Now, that I'd try it. It just sounds not what I would normally go for. But that's okay. Because just because I don't like it doesn't mean that somebody else can't love it. Right? All right. Let's actually go raid. And Nogur's had clam pizza. That I really don't like clams. I would try clam pizza, but my gut is telling me that I would not want to eat clam pizza. Let's go raid. We're going to go raid. Who are we going to go raid? I don't even know who we're going to go raid. I'm not a fan of bivalves just in general. Scallops are about the only ones that I can really handle. I don't like oysters very much. I don't really like clams very much. I don't like mussels at all. I don't know. I don't know. Who are we going to go raid? Oh, I know exactly where we're going to go because Chris Keiko is doing Ninja Turtles. So we're going to go raid a really great art streamer named Chris Keiko. He's currently in what he calls work mode, so he's probably not going to be on the chat, on the microphone, but the dude is an amazing artist. Really, really cool guy, very chill chat stream. And he's drawing Ninja Turtles, which is like, Ninja Turtles is kind of my thing. So we're going to go watch Chris draw Ninja Turtles. And I'll see everybody next time around. Next Tuesday is the next guaranteed stream. We'll be doing the history of the Dacian people, which is a viewer request. And then we'll start a new phase on next Thursday. And we'll get into the 9th century. But until then, hopefully we'll get to do some Gundam stuff over the weekend. But as always, that is variable based on time and effort. 9th century. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all around the bend. Yell adventure in the chat, even if Chris doesn't come back on and talk to us. He's a cool guy. Hang around, show him some love, and I'll see you next time.